Hello, and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
I'm Emily.
I'm KristaLyn.
And I'm Rebecca.
There it is.
I'm joined in person with a special guest. You're joined in digital with a special guest. We have Rebecca here. As in Rebecca the Ghost Guy. Rebecca, not Rebecca Soul Types Rebecca. Just going to be really clear on that one.
Yeah, for anybody who's not watching the video.
I was just like,
Caption, for those who weren't watching, Rebecca popped in from stage right. I think because I can go my right and left. Anyway, Rebecca's here.
I appeared through the ether, and now I am in this chair.
It's arrived. Oh my God. Yeah, Rebecca and I have been hanging out all week.
Yes.
Or weekend, I guess, since Thursday. And it's been super fun.
Yes.
Super duper fun.
Super validating. And it was a chance for us to really work with each other on channeled history in person.
Yeah.
So now that's going to be even more exciting for Sacred Spaces.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Which, by the way, you can come do channeled history with us at Sacred Spaces, because Rebecca and I do have an add-on where we're doing channeled history together as we meander around Williamsburg, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Williamsburg.
I got it. Every time I've talked about it, I've been like, it's a town in the east. I don't know what it is.
The name of a guy.
Yeah, what is it? But yeah, you can come do that with us. It's going to be super fun. As it was, we walked around Alcatraz.
Yeah.
It was an experience.
Yeah, it was a good test in understanding limits. It was a good test in understanding shielding, in trusting intuition, certainly. And it was a great opportunity for us to both get pings and point at things and be like that. And you'd be like, yep, that. And it's just, so that was very good. We worked off each other very well.
It was all, yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It was also, we're gonna do a whole YouTube on it.
Yes.
Because it was an experience. I will say it wasn't a spooky one. It was not spooky in the spooky spookies. It was spooky in the people suck spooky.
Yeah. Honestly,
Tourism based on
talking
jail.
about it, that translates. Yeah.
Yeah, I just encourage everyone to think about what you're doing as a tourist, even if there's a place that everybody goes to if you travel to that location and it might not feel actually super aligned when you think about it. Maybe just don't. Maybe just don't.
Well, we weren't going to.
We
We
weren't.
both got pings from our folks basically being like, you should go.
Yeah.
Like there were some things to do.
Which we did.
Yes.
And there was also some things to be like, ew. We don't want to participate in that. That's gross. Just like parents being like, go sit in the cell, honey. Go sit in the cell. Like,
yeah.
And there was a man there who was an author of a book about Alcatraz because he was incarcerated there. And he was just sitting in the bookshop signing books. And meanwhile, everyone's like, go in the cell, honey. I'm like, ah.
Ooh, that's complicated.
So, awareness is key. And I believe that we left some energy that could be utilized in a positive way for those who want to utilize it in spirit.
Yeah. And here's hoping they do. Wow.
I will say the native.
I'm sorry.
One thing or two things that were cool. One, we saw a baby seagull, major win.
Yes.
Love baby seagull. Second thing, the native people have kind of taken back over the island, and like everywhere where it's like United States government property, they have spray painted over it. And it's like Indian property and native property, and like native welcome you, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
So like the native presence is pretty fantastic.
That's awesome.
That's the good things. Yeah, we did it together. And that was fun.
Yes.
And
then I took a nap.
You did take a nap.
That was necessary.
It was a lot of energy. Plus, it was windy.
Yes.
Like really windy
and cold.
Anyway. But that's what you can experience at Sacred Spaces with us in a not gross place.
Yes.
I can attest it is not a gross place. We'll make sure of that. Yeah.
Can also attest having been there.
I cannot attest, but I trust you both.
It's just ghosty energy. It's just old folks, most of which who very well know that they are ghosts, and that's it.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. If you want to do channeled history and do it in a way where you can actually grow your abilities and play around with them and get used to them with the best people you could possibly do it with in a really safe space, this is the add-on for you. Yeah. I will probably be tagging along, but yeah. You guys are the greatest with channeled history.
Thank you. I would hope you would be coming. just to hang out, not to work. Just hang out,
For vibes.
walk around with us, point at stuff. Yeah. Also, Krista's workshop or add-on with making a talisman, like an actual like talisman. You're going to be crafting it with actual crafting supplies, which is not like popsicle sticks and finger paint. It's like actual supplies to talisman. I was like, wait,
fabric
supplies.
and thread and safety pins, but they are called for. So
yeah, crafting supplies, not crafting supplies.
Well, it's both. Fun fact. So this is what I did over the weekend. I went on a rant about how people don't appreciate puns anymore. This is my big thing lately, because I had some puns that I shared at Norwalk, and people groaned more than they usually do. And I'm like, this doesn't seem like the humoring you kind of groan thing. Like, you actually hated that. I'm very sorry. Puns are magic. And in fact, a lot of ancient magic books would hide the magic within like puns in a story or in a passage, so that those who, like, if you know, would know. So yay for crafting being the perfect double meaning there.
I love puns.
Yeah.
Who hates puns?
It's wit.
Right?
People don't like puns. It's fallen out of style, I guess. But then I shall fall with it. And I'm not mad. I will go down with this ship. That's fine.
Yeah. I think sinking with the pun ship is a good ship to sink with.
Live your truth.
Yes. So Sacred Space is going to be super fun. We're all really excited about it. Not to, keep pounding it home, but we really want you guys to come because we get to hang out with you, and that's like our favorite.
Yeah.
That like, and I will say, and we've mentioned this on the podcast before, but so many people made such long-lasting friendships at Sacred Spaces in January that they're still doing video calls together. They're still talking to each other. And these are people they did not know at all before the gathering. And that's like the whole point. That's why we did it. And I'm still just so grateful for that, to get to do that again. It's just gonna be so neat.
I mean, people who were nervous to come because it was solo travel for them and etc. came and then left with a group of friends and a consistent group chat, and people that they are now sharing Airbnbs with this year. And it's really, really cool to see that happening, and to have people finding really good quality spiritual friends.
Even there's a couple of people who are going on our Japan trip that met at Sacred Spaces, and now we're getting to travel to Japan together, which that's really cool.
Yeah, it is really
and like it made people brave enough to travel internationally for the first time. And that's amazing. I love that. Like, that is so neat. Ugh, so cool. So anyway, come to Sacred Spaces. The tickets are on sale right now. You can do it right now. Like, you can go right now to sacredspacesgathering.com and grab a ticket right now.
Oh, great.
I will say some of the add-ons are already sold out. So if you want to, ones that I'm really looking forward to, and I would love to know what ones you guys are looking forward to the most. I am so excited for the Magic Spirit Theater 3000. What, Mystery Spirit Theater 3000?
Mystery Spirits, yes, very much so.
And I don't think people understand what it is. So I want to like clarify. We are going to put on an episode of Ghost Adventures in a movie theater. And all of us are going to be in a movie theater. It's in a theater, an actual theater. And we're going to be in a theater, and we're going to just roast it. I mean, not roast it. We're going to go through and be like, Ghost wasn't actually doing that. And maybe you should stop poking them. And like, we're going to be up there just experiencing it with you from a psychic perspective. And it's going to be so funny and fun.
We will groan together, all of us collectively.
Yeah. I think worthy of groaning at.
We're gonna need like, we should maybe make like big flags or something and be like, groan.
A big
But so many things, like you get spoons and like you throw the plastic spoons.
Yeah.
Whenever Zach gets possessed, throw your spoons.
Do we have enough
Zach's possessed?
Yeah.
Like, until he's done being possessed, we're all possessed. Ooh.
Like, acting possessed sounds terrifying.
Oh my god, it'd be so funny though. F you, Zach Baggins.
But yeah, so I mean, it's going to be even better than just this right now. So definitely jump into that one if you're thinking.
My God, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, because I think a lot of our listeners already know that's not how it should go. But now you get to like literally just laugh at it with us, which I'm looking forward to.
Right. Oh, they did do a Ghost Adventures episode of Virginia City, which is where we're going tomorrow. So we could have actually gone to that energy
I know they
if
also
we can
did
find
one.
that one. Or another place that you guys do. I'm sure there's a bunch there.
Well, I was thinking of looking up highlights, like best moments in Ghost Adventures.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Which they may have something from there. They'll probably have something from the Castillo de San Marcos in St. Augustine, which they're banned from. Yeah, they are banned.
I love that they've gotten banned from places. Sorry. Except for Aaron. He's sweet, but everybody else can get banned.
But Aaron allegedly also went home with a lot of things came home with him, and it like really destroyed his life, which I feel bad about. Which is why shielding is important, everybody.
That is so sad. And also fuck you, Zach, because he always locked him in the places where you get the things attached to him.
I would need to go back and like look at that because I'm not as in touch with the lore, but that's what I heard, and that also made me very sad.
I'm gonna do a poke.
Yeah, do that. Because I remember like I watched Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, like all the things with my dad growing up, because he was trying to help me not be afraid of the stuff I was seeing. Go dad. But at the end of Ghost Hunters, they always did this thing where they were like, nothing else is allowed to come home with us, blah, blah, blah. And they weren't even trying to get into the spiritual side of it, which is interesting to me that based on M's faith.
No, he straight up took home a bunch.
Oh no. And they probably weren't all bad.
His marriage.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is why mediums and psychics should be the paranormal investigators, because they know what the fuck to do.
Or at least like include them in the investigation.
They should at least have one member on the team to open and close the energy.
Yeah. Or investigators should acknowledge when they have intuition about things, which they totally do. When you say like, oh, I feel like I need to go in that room. I feel you have no logical reason to go into said room. I feel is a psychic thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Everybody's psychic. We say it all the time. All of us will joke around sometimes too when we'll like predict something or whatever, and then we're like, oh, we're all a little bit psychic. Look at us go. It's like we're psychic or something.
Like me turning it on your street on the scooter.
Yeah, you just scoot it to the street.
I was like, I'm going to do right that. And it was just suddenly like, turn.
Good job. Psychic directions. Something also named Rebecca's chicken. That sounded dirty. But wanted to be dirty. I crocheted Rebecca a chicken.
Oh,
you should check it out on the YouTube.
Magical hen.
It's adorable.
Perfect size for me to hold like this. And this hen has been traveling around with us for vibes. And I told, like, when you gifted me this hen, I was like, all right, I don't know what to name. Because you asked the name. It's so funny. I was literally thinking, oh, what's the name? At the same time you asked the question. So then I was like, you know what, whatever wants to name this chicken, give it to me in a dream. Like, have me wake up and know the name. 2 a.m. on the dot. I wake up, Hildy. And I'm like, I'm wide awake and I'm looking around the room. I'm just like,
thank you.
Even now, I'm just sort of like, was that like a flyby? Like, it wasn't an energy signature that I immediately recognized or anything. So maybe by the end of this trip, I'll be like, I know who you are now.
I mean, maybe she named herself.
This is true. It is possible. I mean, but she is she now. And I keep forgetting her name. And now I don't anymore because it just keeps popping between you and your, like, we're all
should be guilty. But yes. So
yeah, she exists here.
A little bit psychic.
That's awesome. It's adorable. Well done, Em. And
thank you.
Indeed. Yes.
I am
blessed.
Glad it was well received.
I'm blessed.
Like, what should I crochet, Rebecca? And it was just like a little chicken. I'm like, really? Okay, spirit.
Psychic.
Let's do that. I'm like, a moon. Like, I'm thinking like more spiritually stuff. They're like, a chicken.
They were right. Whoever told you. Yeah, they were on it. Perfect.
It's adorable.
We also wanted to talk about today, other than just vibing with each other, which we hope you're enjoying the way. 3 of us just being goofy. We also, on that note, we're great friends, and that's super fun. And we were talking about how people made friends at sacred spaces. And we also know that right now, especially with the energy of last week, well, you might have gotten a lot, or you probably did get a lot of clarity on relationships and connections and friendships and that sort of thing. And I just want to reiterate, like, getting clarity is a good thing inherently. That doesn't mean it feels good at all. Actually, it sometimes can feel real yuck, but it's a good thing to move forward. It's a good thing to process through the energy. It gives you directional thing, like you have time to think about it and then you get to do something about it, and that is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So that was all the energy of last week. We talked about it a lot on last week's podcast, with like a lot of clarity in relationships coming through. So hopefully you got that in some capacity. I know I did, in a bunch of different
I did.
capacities. You did. Perfect. Rebecca?
That's the only podcast that I haven't listened to because I was traveling.
No, but did you get clarity in
Oh
relationships?
yeah,
You don't have to
absolutely.
feel that.
No, I told you I'm in the top 7% of your listeners
You are.
for this podcast. So says Spotify. So yeah, I actually have it saved for when I'm traveling. I'm gonna listen to last week's, but
Okay.
the energy, yes.
We're so glad. Thank you for listening for last week's chapter. You don't have to listen to this. I mean, you can listen to this one, but you are here.
I mean, we'll see. You know.
But yeah, lots of clarity in relationships. And so we wanted to kind of expand on that and talk about the, like Rebecca calls it, the friendship commandments, right?
The quality friendship commandments.
For spiritual friends and other friends, but like spiritual friends specifically, because everyone wants them right now. And I think it's kind of hard and like getting through the weeds of that, especially with so many people being the new age brand of spirituality, or the like all my bypass all my shit, or just occasionally I throw stuff in a pot and call it witchcraft. Like those types of energies, maybe that's not the right energy or friendship for you. So we wanted to talk about what we think makes a good spiritual friend, as a physical I mean, I guess it could be a spiritual person too, but like a physical being friendship.
A friend of the spiritual variety in the physical incarnation.
Yes. I mean, I would apply these, like if you make a ghost friend too, it should probably
Yeah, this
apply.
is true. Yeah.
All friends.
All friends.
Spiritual friend boundaries.
Spiritual, yes, spiritual friend boundaries. Love it. Love it. So, initial thoughts. We were talking about, just to start off, Krista had a really cool thing from an ancient source on friendship.
Yeah. So traditional, like ancients, I'll throw back to Egypt and stuff, but this one is from the Renaissance, from one of my favorite astrological magicians slash Catholic priests, Ficino. Marsilio Ficino was a priest who, I honestly share this with him. When I first heard about Ficino, when I was reading his story, I was like, this gives off such Venus and Pisces energy. I don't even know. And then I did a workshop about him 2 weeks ago, and Austin Coppock, who was leading the workshop, said, yeah, Ficino thought he had Venus and Pisces. And when he got his chart done, he went through the same disappointment for him that I did, finding out that he did not have Venus and Pisces. And in fact, he had Saturn rising in Aquarius. And he took that personally, as someone with Saturn rising in Aquarius would. And he spent the rest of his life trying to mitigate that and trying to basically make himself the way that he wanted to be, which embodied his chart beautifully.
But I was just gonna say, which sounds like a very of his chart thing to do. Like that is some petty power.
He did a great job, but he came out with a lot of really poetic, why does magic work? How does magic work? And what to do with magic to make sure that if your chart promises you a shorter lifespan, which was his big thing, how can you have a medium lifespan? If you have a medium promise, how can you have a long promise? If you have a long promise, how can you not live forever, but have a good time? And he kept his mother alive almost as long as he kept himself alive, which was really impressive for the time. And so in his sort of
real quick, clarify kept alive. Like
he
like don't go in front of that cart, it's speeding down the street, or like here eat only this. Okay.
Yeah. Like he did a lot with planetary association of herbs and like sympathies and that kind of stuff. So that's why he's really great in planetary magic. And I should have specified that first.
I was just like, bed rest? Like what's happening?
Well, not like Cult of Mother God kept alive, but
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, continue. Don't mean to interrupt. I was just like,
great.
I don't think we should buzz past that point.
So Ficino also said, like, you need to find the diamonds or the spirits that support your chart and your lifestyle and your career and all of those things and live in alignment. It sounds a lot when you read it, it sounds a lot like the Japanese concept of ikigai, like what do you love to do? What can you make money doing? And there's a third concept in ikigai, but they are also in Ficino's little list as well, including the friends that you should keep. And if you summarize what he says, because he is, like I said, Wax is pretty poetic. He wants to be that Venus in Pisces, and he does a good job embodying it. He says, essentially, that you should keep friends that are at least 2/3 really good for you. So like if you have a friend where you're like, they're this awesome and they're that awesome, but they've got this problem. That problem, depending on how big of a deal it is to your friendship, is acceptable. Like they don't all have to be perfect or saints or things like that. People have flaws, and that's what we're acknowledging there. If you can justify like the 2/3 rule of your friendship, great. But if you start having to make more excuses for them, maybe they're not the people to have around. And this is important because those people are influencing your energy, they're influencing your choices and all the things around you. So your magic then gets diluted by them as well, if you think about it.
Oh, yeah. I think magic and relationships go very, very hand in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about this extensively. Like the only time in my life that I didn't feel psychic, because I was every other time, is when I was in a severely abusive relationship, because you can't be magic in fight or flight.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you can, but like to live in that prolonged amount of time in fight or flight, like the magic goes too. Everything goes, you know?
A thing that I just recalled in regards to this conversation is if you have somebody who's close to you who you feel shame talking about because you're worried that it would make you look bad by association with them. Because I've had relationships like that and friendships like that before where I'm I find myself not talking about that person, even though they're a major part of my life, because I'm so worried because I know somewhere that the people who mean me well would say, like, hey, are you sure that's good? Like, are you sure they should be saying those things or putting you in that situation or whatever? So I think if I could tell my younger self something, it would be, hey, that person who you spend a lot of time with, but you're so worried to say anything about because you know something is weird, analyze why that is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you, okay, all right, guys, if you associated and felt way too close to Taylor Swift's new album, that's probably a red flag. No, for any association. Most of that whole album is about a person that you're ashamed to talk about, but that you like anyway. And then it turns out really poorly for everybody involved. So if you have a relationship that pops into your head when you think of most of that album, about just there. That was from my guides. That was not from me. Gifts.
That is a good summary. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I agree though. I really do. Of like, I think that's something really important. And we're never going to sit here and be like, don't be friends with this type of person. Do be friends, because everyone's an individual and your journey is your journey. And we fully respect that. When it comes to spiritual friends, though, I think it's really, really important that everyone.
I'm sorry. I'm over here making like really weird faces, and I realized you can't see the bug on the screen. So I'm really sorry that I'm like following a bug and trying to get rid of it. Speaking of great friends, my bad, you guys.
No, it's all good. You're great. Don't worry about it. What was I saying? God damn you, bug.
Sorry. So you were saying something along the lines of, oh, go ahead.
No, I didn't get it. I was waiting.
Okay.
I'm
I thought you
still
said, oh, no, I think, oh, no, it's fine. It's like pulling out of my head. So you were talking about how if you related to Taylor Swift, if you find yourself making excuses for people. Yeah, I know.
In regards to, I think what you're talking to is having grace with people, you know?
Yeah, you don't have to not be friends with
Thank
people.
you.
Thing.
Yeah. So the other thing, thank you. I'm sure the podcast was like, you were saying this. And we're like, what were we saying?
Rewind.
They can rewind. We can't rewind. Basically, what I was trying to say is I think it's really important, especially when looking for spiritual friends, come up with some spiritual like boundaries for yourself. Like these are things that I am good with, in spiritual spaces, and these are things I'm not. Like people that don't ask consent for spiritual stuff and refuse to ask consent if I call them out on it, we can't be friends. That's not going to work, because that's like a line in the sand for me.
Yep.
Like that's a big one. Like if you're doing spiritual work on people and I say, whoa, you need to ask for consent for that. And they're like, no, 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 I don't need to. And they don't listen to that piece, then we aren't going to be friends, because there's no way. Like that's a line for me. And I think I don't think we should overdo these lines in the sand, but come up with some like make or break it's for yourself and use those as kind of a friendship gauge of like, how much can I be close to this person or not based on these spiritual things that are a big deal for me, are a big deal.
Yeah, I think you make a really
Consent
good
is a
point.
great one.
Consent
Yeah.
is a perfect one. I dealt with that last year with someone. And I think it's really important to say, like, you can be acquaintances and friendly with everybody, but the people that you're going to rely on and the people that you're going to talk to the most and the people that you're going to put your trust in, those people need to be carefully selected to be to have good synergy with you. Everybody has people out there that they get along really well with for whatever part of their life that they are in and whatever path they are on their journey, and you deserve to have the people that suit where you are and where you're headed. That's the 11th house in astrology, by the way.
Another one for me is using spirituality to bypass mental health needs. That's a big line in the sand for me. Like if you're ignoring your mental health needs and just throwing it all to spirituality, that means that you don't truly understand it. You're super ungrounded. You don't understand healing. And those are essential parts of both humaning, being a good friend, and spiritual stuff. And I can't trust you with my spiritual stuff if you can't trust you with yours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Shadow work took me to therapy.
Yeah.
I was looking at everything. I was doing the meditations. I was facing the grief and the shame and all of these things that I had been running from for pretty much all of my life. And that led me to therapy because I was just like, I was like, I can't process all of this on my own. And it's not my immediate friends' responsibility to do that for me. And certainly they listen, which I am so grateful that they do. Though that's what took me to therapy. And I'm still very open about that. I still go to therapy.
Yeah. Go to therapy.
The rabbits agree. They're like, going to therapy, Rebecca.
No. It's so funny because like I'll work with people in astrology consultations. And last week, someone came to me and they had this sudden like onset from the last few years fear of death. And I was like, well, I know what that's like, but it doesn't seem like it's been a lifelong thing. So like, where is this coming from? And I saw some transits in their chart that I was like, oh, that's where this is coming from. So we have a beginning, we have a middle, we have an end. But also I was like, hey, I'm only here with you for this amount of time. Do you have support for someone who will like help you walk through all of these things we're going to identify right now? And they said, yes, they had somebody. But a lot of that consultation and some of the best parts of that consultation were like, here's something else to bring up with your therapist. Here's something else that's going to help really move you forward that we can talk about right now, but that you can do on a longer timeline with your therapist. And then by the time this transit is over, you will have used it to do the thing that it is calling you to do, rather than just hiding from it and trying to like magic it away, which is something I see people doing so much. Magic is not a snap your fingers, fix the problem thing most of the time. And I would even argue that when it is those things, it's because the practitioner and the moment are so prepared for that moment that it's been a long time coming and they just happen to be there to cinch it. But it's okay that you're still healing and you can still be magical.
Totally. That's the point.
I think it's also a worthiness thing. I spoke with somebody in a consultation recently about this, where I was like, you're worthy of the time and space to allow yourself to just simply talk and to learn something about yourself. And spirituality is, in my humble opinion, meant to go hand in hand with mental health.
Yeah.
They should work together. How many times, I'm sure both of you have had this experience. How many times I talk to somebody and, I'm just reading the energy, right? And they go, oh yeah, my therapist has mentioned that.
A lot. Because they're very similar, and we're going to pick up on similar stuff to what your therapist is picking up on. If you're being honest with your therapist, if you're being open with your therapist, you don't really have to be as honest and open with us for us to pick up on it, but you have to be honest with them for them to pick up on it. No, I think that it does go hand in hand, and that's a big one. And I just think, and you don't have to actively be in therapy. If you're in between, whatever, that's fine. But just knowing that spirituality is not a substitution for mental health is a huge friend thing. On that note too, I also think it's important and this is not necessarily like a commandment as much, it's not like such a big line in the sand, but I will say in spiritual friendships, like if they are talking the talk, I really need them to also be doing the stuff. Like
it's one of mine too.
Yeah, it's a big deal. You can't be like, well, I channel this and I do this and I all these things, and then you actually like hang out with them and like, oh, and then it's like they were pretending or being fake about it. And I'm not saying they weren't, trying to do those things. They could have been, but they're just over exaggerating or claiming energy that's not theirs, or like trying to do these things as like an impressive thing instead of just being like, this is what I'm working on as a spiritual person, which is just as valid. Whatever it is a fantastically valid thing. You don't have to claim things that are not yours in order to have the validity, at least in our space. Like, I'm never going to be like, oh, you're not psychic enough to hang out with. Like, oh,
Me.
but you know what I mean? Like, I think that's, again, that inadequacy thing, that like feeling like, I need to prove this level. You don't.
Yeah, let's be you.
Mm-hmm.
We're all here to be individuals, and that's beautiful. We're meant to learn from each other in different places and levels and backgrounds and wherever we're from and wherever we're going and all that. Like, we're beautiful and unique as we are. We don't need to be anything else.
Yeah, and the more you work on yourself, the easier it's going to be to figure out what just be you means. You know, there's a lot of people, myself included, who heard just be yourself growing up, and then that was not okay. So you hear it and you're like, just be yourself. Great. This is who I am. Rejection all over the place, or even discipline. And I know a lot of people who have neurodivergences or other kind of things felt that, but I'm sure everybody felt that at some point in their life in some capacity. And one of the avenues that I found to actually accessing what it means to be yourself and be okay with that and feel safe with that is through therapy, because the therapist will help you unravel that in a safe space where you don't have to face the rejection without a plan to say that it's okay if this specific thing happens, I will still survive.
I'll say on the flip side too, on being a good friend, you know, spiritual friend, and also, you know, finding good spiritual friends, also open-mindedness is super essential. And like I said, like, don't, you know, the people that say, oh, they do all these things and they don't actually do these things are an issue for me, obviously, but also like, never coming into a friendship, and I don't know about you guys, but never coming in and disbelieving someone right off the bat based on the things that they're saying. If they're like, oh, I channel and work these things, amazing. I am open-minded to that. It's just actually do those things and be open-minded to everyone's or perspectives of spirituality that actually vibe with your alignment. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, my favorite thing about a spiritual friend is it's someone I don't have to in my mind or then later fact check, because I know they're being honest and authentic. Because you meet people who are like, I did this thing, and what you hear all the time in the astrological magic circuit is, I went up against the most powerful sorcerer of such and such a thing, and they're afraid of me. And I'm just like, cool story, yo. Why is that? Like,
why was it the first thing?
Right? Like, where are we going with this?
Yeah, and it's like, I'm glad that you're having this little power moment for yourself. How many glasses of wine have you had? And you know, that's when the stories really start coming out. But it is interesting to me when I reach that point where they are talking about something awesome, like Atlantis, and they're talking about all of these sources that they did. And I'm like, cool, can I do that too? Can I like look at those sources? And then all of a sudden they're talking about this thing over here. And I'm like, oh, the wine glass is gone. Got it. We're not in this same vein anymore. And not that wine is bad. Wine has a lot of sacred properties, but also can be enjoyed to whatever capacity you want to enjoy it. But some people, when they've had enough of it, have fun stories that aren't necessarily bad.
See, I love already how both of you are saying things that are a part of my quality friend commandments.
Yeah,
which that, like you're going through them right now, which is so, because I didn't share them with either of you. They're all on my Patreon. I shared all of mine on my Patreon. So you know, because I just wanted to encourage people to come up with their own. One of which is because I have met some people who are very proud of like their higher selves. I'm like, that's really great. What do you do on Tuesday night? What kind of drink are you, like a coffee or a tea person? And they're like, well, I'm a this, and I'm like, yeah, do you enjoy painting? Do you crochet? Like, what do you do in your body? You know,
my higher self is this person. Does your higher self talk? Mine's in a cave. Like,
and like it's cool to talk about. And I know all of us have talked about it. And it's like this extra sort of thing. Though I love talking, like, especially when talking to spiritual people. I'm like, you don't need to impress me by being like, I'm a this and I'm a that. I'm just like, cool. Are you a person too?
No, I think that's huge.
What does person look like to you? You know, other thing I wanted to say real quick, because we talked about a therapist, and I'm in the fortunate position to be able to afford a therapist. So if anybody's listening to this and they're like, oh, well, that's not really in my means right now, I see you, I understand this. I have not always been able to afford a therapist. there are counselors, there are support groups, there are books.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Books
you're
are mine.
working with your guides, go to a bookstore, like trust your intuition and wind up in front of a book. If it's not in the self-help section, perhaps it's in
Or a library.
Yeah, or a library, for sure. You know, maybe there's something in that book that you can utilize. But there are countless pages, YouTubes and TikToks and Instagrams with free advice on so many things. And if you take that information and make it more like a journaling topic, you can do a lot in that space.
So much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, that's
Spiritual
very
growth and personal growth went hand in hand for a while. Yeah. It also gives you counseling skills. If you are someone who's going to be a reader, you end up learning to empathize and to help someone draw out the right questions for them to heal themselves. The greatest thing a healer can be is someone who helps another person heal themselves. Totally. I really, truly believe that. You witness it, you facilitate, you create a space for it, but you are not responsible for it. As my white grandma used to smack me in the back of the head about every time I tried to work with someone. It is not about you in that moment. You are there to witness and help someone else find out how amazing they are. And you are amazing for being in that position as well. Don't get me wrong.
The recording, I don't know if you saw it, but I was just like doing this. And I'm like, it's right here. That was another one of mine.
Yes.
Where I'm talking about, and I referred to it, I believe it was constructive criticism of your past. Or I don't know if I used the word constructive exactly, but it was some kind of like to be able to look at your past and say, all right, I did that. And to say it honestly, to say, all right, I did that, especially if it's a mistake or you did wrong by somebody, but to just say, all right, I did that. That was the reality. I got hurt or so-and-so got hurt. And this is my awareness about it. And this is how I'm moving forward. It's not always about like, it's a very dangerous space to get into when somebody starts going at themselves and being like, I'm a bad person and I messed up. Like, there's a place and time for that in order to learn and grow and perhaps apologize or do better or stand by the words that you said, that sort of thing, like as you were saying. Though it matters very much to me when I can talk to somebody who can look at their past and say, yeah, I did that. And I don't want to do that again. And here's what I learned from that. And here's what I needed to learn from my guides. These are the things the guides helped me with. And these are the things that the guides were like, you need to learn this lesson on your own. Yeah. And here's where I'm at now. And here's where I want to go.
I also think the ability to share story is huge with friendship. And like, that's not so much like a boundary as much, but like that level of just being like, I can tell you a story of my past and maybe I wasn't great in it, but this is how I'm working through it. And you can tell me a story of your past and maybe you were great in it and I can laugh at it. Like having that dynamic of like being able to share mutual stories. I think that's also like accepting each other's neurodivergency too, because everyone has their own storytelling style, or neurotypicalness. I don't know a lot of very neurotypical people, so like I'm sure they have a storytelling style too. Sorry, I'm not trying to be insulting there. I really am not. But like I'm like, oh yeah, like neurodivergent people like bam, 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 and then like we bounce off of each other. But I think that's also really important for spiritual friends or just like friends in general is to have a space to be able to like I'm gonna call it like empathize through stories, like empathize through sharing your stories and like connecting through your own personal stories and journeys. Like I think that's really important. Yeah, it's relating, but also through your own experience too. Like there's both sides. You're not just one sided where you're constantly having to be like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I'm so much empathy. Like, thank you for sharing all your stories. And then you try to talk and they're just like, not into it, like I think that's important.
That's actually a huge thing in the discussion within autistic communities because people who are autistic tend to tell their stories in order to relate and to like make sure they understand. And it's I see you laughing, Rebecca. Surprising. But what I do find is in spiritual communities, we all have such interesting stories that it's a storytelling kind of friendship to begin with. So you get to share your story and you get to be excited about it and you don't have to hold back. And then someone's going to share their story and it's almost going to validate your story more and help you believe in yourself and what you've experienced, like you guys were talking about at Alcatraz. And that happens a lot when you're with a spiritual person. You get to validate each other. And that is the greatest doubt buster there is when it comes to actually your own personal spiritual growth.
Yeah, that's the best way to have spiritual growth, in my opinion, is to have spiritual friends. That's why we started Sacred Spaces Gathering, to loop back to the very beginning in this beautiful roundabout way. But that's why we started Sacred Spaces, is because that is, if you want to grow, unfortunately, the best way is to find people that help you grow, that you can collab with, that can channel in a different way. And that's hard to do. And we know that. So that's why we created the space to facilitate those connections so that you can really tap in and grow your spiritual connections and grow your spiritual abilities.
Yeah.
I mean, we experience this firsthand all the time.
All the time. Yeah. I mean, I still get emotional to the point of almost weepiness when I think about sacred spaces and how much I would have done anything to be in something like that as a kid. And now that I get to be someone who kind of creates it and facilitates it and makes this space for other people to have everything that I would have wanted as a child, and now I'm in a position to help teach and connect people. It's I like truly, I think this is one of the reasons I'm at least here, and I'm sure you guys as well. I mean, but Cheebers, it's awesome.
On that note too, I do just want to say I think there's a lot of limiting beliefs still around making online friends. Meeting online friends in person. And I get why there's those limited beliefs. A lot of us, I mean, millennials were raised in the internet Wild West, like 100%. Like meeting internet friends when you were in middle school and high school for us was dangerous territory. So there's a lot of limiting beliefs there, and I totally understand that. That being said, just for example, the only reason I know the two of you is the internet. You are my online friends.
Yes.
But you're also like also my besties. So like, like that's just how that works. So hopefully that can kind of help people, because I think that the internet is a beautiful tool for friendship, and it's now more than ever. I think that's why a lot of us came, to be totally honest, is to be connected in this way that has never happened on planet before. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you may not have been born into the best chemistry of people. And so online is the way that you find people with distance and space not being a factor. Be discerning about that, as always. Use the quality friend commandments. Join Rebecca's Patreon to find out exactly what they are and get more context, because why not?
As a post-it note, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it is possible. It is. Being someone who literally 3 months before you and I started doing Perceptionist Anonymous guest things, I was manifesting so hard a friend. And now, like, it's only been 4 years since then, and I have so many friends. And like, I was like, Dan's in all these group chats, and I don't even have a group chat. I have like 80 group chats now. Like, I get it. It's enough slices, and we keep going. But just know that you can go from that 0 to amazing very quickly.
Yeah. Right.
So many fails in a good way, because I just relate to all this so much. Like, so many of us have grown up in places where we had these beliefs and we were channeling, and in my experience I didn't know that I was channeling, and I didn't know exactly what I was talking to. I just knew it was homey. Those were my guides. All these different sorts of things. And TikTok, we can say what it is, it's what it is. Though so many people have been able to find other people that validated their personal experiences with spirit, and the relationships can be so much deeper that way too, because there's all these other elements, which is what is so exciting about finding friends in the spiritual community. It's just, this is simply a reminder, the same sort of things that you would do with friends in any other space, apply those understandings to the spiritual community as well.
Yeah. It's so fun to be able to find spiritual community now, though. And I know there's a lot of spiritual community that is yucky, and I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like, there's yucky stuff. Like, I have shared this on here before, but like, I'm not on spiritual TikTok basically at all, because I get too triggered. Get too triggered repeatedly, which is not to say like I don't follow spiritual creators. I do. I have vetted some really fantastic, amazing spiritual creators that I do follow, but just as far as like the actual like what I would consider spiritual TikTok, I just don't, because it's not healthy for my mental health, because then I just want to respond to everything, and that's not good. So but it's, again, you just apply to like what's your code, your moral standards, what are your spiritual standards, and then find people with that, what you can do, and your guides can help. You're not on your own. None of you are on your own.
Yeah.
And you can come to Sacred Spaces and meet friends. No, they just posted it there.
So excited to see you there. Yeah.
Really quick note on the energy of the week before we round this out. The energy of this week is a lot of making action off of the energy from last week. So we mentioned that really quickly, but it's a lot of like we have a little bit of the first half of the week, which by the time you listen to this will have passed, but it was a lot of like kind of holding space a little bit to just kind of process through some things. And the second half of the week is a lot of like making decisions, doing things, making changes based on the information you got last week and the clarity you got last week.
Mm-hmm.
So it builds
Yeah.
off of it.
And just know, like, we're coming into new territory with a lot of friendships. We're coming into like beginnings and endings, it feels like, with relationships, with the clarity that's coming on. Either it's a fresh new beginning that is taking a relationship to a deeper level and being like, yes, this is a friend that is 2/3 or 3/3. Awesome. Like they meet all of the spiritual commandments there. Or wow, I'm making a lot of excuses for this person, and maybe it's time to just not have so many conversations with them so frequently. And you may also feel like you're on the other end of that, of people making those decisions about you. One of the things that I see coming up with Cancer season starting next week, summer, yay, happy Cancer season, everybody, is that we have a lot of planets. All the ones that are in Gemini now are going to move into Cancer, except Jupiter. And then the moon is almost immediately going to be full in Capricorn. So we have a moon full of light in her sign of detriment. And so the energy that comes of this is that sort of fear of rejection or FOMO. And I just encourage you, take some time to ask yourself, why do I feel this fear of rejection? What am I afraid of losing? Or what am I afraid of missing out on? And give yourself a story about that. And then honestly sleep on it if you can. Then when you have the clarity of mind, go to someone and say, hey, I'm having this feeling. Can you let me know if I'm, if it's true, or if there's some work to be done, or if it's all good. Just saying, like, are we good, is just a really easy way to do it. But the energy is going to be there of, where's my community? How do I find my community? Do I fit in my current community? And those questions can help you spiral really quickly. So grounding techniques, knowing your own worth, knowing that you are amazing. There is a community for you. And if it's not the one you're in right now, you can easily find it, especially with the energy that's available, will be helpful.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. Very solid. The other thing I just want to say, and you might hear all the plants going into Cancer season and be like, oh no, emotional. Emotions are good things too. Like you can have big, happy emotions. You can have good, wonderful emotions. Also, let's not jump to Cancer season so quick because we're still in Gemini season. And I really, really like Gemini season. And we're just gonna like embrace that
wait,
for a little while longer.
Wait. This episode will come out to the Patreon on a very special day this month that I think we all need to, like, I have another call I need to jump to, but I am going to make that wait, because everybody on the Patreon, on the count of from 3 to 1, because Emily will feel it on this day. On the count of 1, we're going to just say, happy birthday, M.
Oh, you're
all the
so
listeners,
sweet.
say this with me. And if it's Thursday, do it anyway, because it's still fun and the energy will still be there. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday, M.
Thank you guys.
No one
I
will say it as
appreciate
cheeky
you.
as I did, so you'll be fine.
I'm sure everyone can be like, that matched up perfectly, like our exit does.
We're totally in sync, all of you with me. Yes.
More people together, the more it kind of sounds like a choir, right?
It becomes a harmony of echoes.
Yes.
Hey.
All right. Wonderful. Well, Krista, we're gonna let you get to your call. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for the happy birthdays. You guys are the sweetest.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Thanks for being here, Rebecca.
Thanks for joining with with what's the chicken's name?
Hildy.
Hildy.
There we go.
Hildy the hen. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. We're happy that your spiritual presence is here as well. And yeah, we hope you find some wonderful friends. And we hope that you 1, 2, 3 go make some magic. Yeah.
Perfect on my end. I hope it was for you guys too. Have a great rest of your week.
Now Rebecca gets to experience how off we are in real time. It's so bad. Bye.